You want to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. You're asking yourself if that's even possible. I can tell you it is, but not for everyone. If it is possible for you, you will find out in this video. In the past, you may have heard different things like it is impossible to build muscle and lose fat at the same time, and crazy things like you can convert fat into muscle. Both statements are wrong. You can actually build muscle and lose fat at the same time, but only in certain circumstances and when done right. And to clarify the second statement, you cannot convert fat into muscle. Muscles and fat are made of completely different types of tissue that cannot be converted into the other one. They are built and burned through different biological pathways, and it is impossible to transform a fat cell directly into a muscle cell. I like the analogy that scientist Brad Schoenfeld said to this statement: you can also not convert oranges into apples. But what you can do is building muscle and losing fat within separate processes. And those processes can run at the same time. If you're weighing the same and you have built muscle and lost fat over a certain amount of time, you have basically recomposed your body, meaning the amount of fat and muscle has changed while staying at the same weight. This is essentially what 80% of my client requests want, and there is an approach to achieve it. But I still don't recommend everyone to go for this approach, because how effective you can lose fat and build muscle at the same time is mainly based on your training level. There's actually a limit to how much muscle we can naturally build. Nobody knows how much it is for each individual body, but if you are already very advanced in your training, meaning you're not doing personal records every week and you're squeezing already the last bit of your performance and training, then you can expect less visible changes if you're trying to build muscle and lose fat at the same time, because you're already at the higher end of your ability to build muscle. The same applies to the other way around. If you are very new in the gym and just started your fitness journey, there is a good chance that you will build muscle very fast and lose fat at the same time, probably during the first 1 to 2 years. Because everything that you're doing is a new stimulus for your body that it will adapt to. I call this the newbie gains, or also honeymoon phase, where you're able to increase weight almost every week and see faster changes than later in your fitness journey. The same principle applies to if you haven't trained at all or significantly less for several months or even years. If you then start training again, you will benefit from the so-called muscle memory effect. Your body, or more precisely your muscle cell, literally remembers all the hard work that you've done in the past, as the latest research has shown. I observed that many times with clients that have gotten pregnant and lost muscle during pregnancy, since they obviously didn't train at the same intensity as before. But when they got back to their more intensive training routines, they built muscle and lost fat really fast. And the last circumstance where the recomposition principle works really well is for people that are overweight. They can oftentimes build muscle really well while being in a caloric deficit, meaning while they are also losing a significant amount of fat. Why? Because they have enough energy on their body to survive. Why people usually lose muscle in a caloric deficit is because the body is in a state of emergency. In order to survive, the body uses everything to sustain the body with energy that is not necessary to survive. Extra muscle that we might like for aesthetic reasons are not necessary to keep us alive. This is why the less body fat someone has, the higher the risk to lose muscle in a caloric deficit. Therefore, the risk of losing muscle is lower for an overweight person in a caloric deficit because they carry so much extra energy with them. Plus, overweight people are oftentimes not the sportiest ones, which is why they additionally benefit from the newbie gains that I previously talked about. If you fall into one of these categories, the chances are high that you will build muscle and lose fat at the same time. Let's talk about how you actually do it. Calorie-wise, we want to stay at our maintenance calories. Unless you're overweight, like I just said, in that scenario, you should lose weight for your health and therefore you need to be in a caloric deficit. If you're not overweight, a newbie in the gym, skinny fat, or you want to get back into your training routine after a long break, you should start with your current maintenance calories. That means you should eat as many calories as you spend total during the day. This is also called your total daily energy expenditure. Many people confuse this with your basal metabolic rate, which describes just the amount of calories that would keep you alive if you would lay in bed all day. It includes breathing and providing energy for your organs to function. Your total daily energy expenditure, however, is your basal metabolic rate plus your activity levels throughout the day and your training activity. There are more components that make up your total daily energy expenditure, like the thermic effect of food, but I'm not going into that detail in this video. My main point was here that your BMR, so your basal metabolic rate, is not your total daily energy expenditure, but a part of it. So make sure you're searching for either a total daily energy expenditure calculator, or you can use my app, which is calculating your maintenance calories for you. If you're currently tracking your calories and your weight stays the same, then this number of calories that you're tracking is even more exact, because formulas can have huge deviations since your metabolism is able to adapt. If you, for example, just have been in a large caloric deficit, your maintenance calories are currently different. These adaptations are not taken into consideration by standard formulas. And this is why I have developed a smart app that adjusts your calories on a weekly basis according to your body's reaction. To find out your maintenance calories, you could also eat after a caloric amount that you think is your maintenance, and then adjust the calories based on your weekly average weight. Another point that I want to mention is that your maintenance calories are not a set number, but a range, because of the body's ability to adapt to our activity levels, stress, types of food that we eat, etc. That means your maintenance is usually a range of plus minus 100 calories, where your body is neither losing nor gaining weight. But don't have the expectation that your weight has to stay at a fixed number either. A realistic definition of maintenance weight is when it stays around plus minus 0.5 kg or plus minus 1 pound. If your weight goes up outside of that range, you can slightly decrease your calories by around 150. And if it goes below that range, you can slightly increase your calories by around 150 calories. And by pivoting a couple of times, you should find your maintenance calories pretty soon. This is what my app does for you, but on an even more complex level. The app also takes into consideration other factors that can influence your weight, like your period, constipation, muscle soreness, stress, and so on. The app interprets your weight so you can actually understand which factors can have an effect on your weight and is not necessarily being fat. You can also choose your desired weight range that you want to allow your body to fluctuate in, like for example, plus minus 400 grams, 600 grams or 800 grams. Once you have your calories figured out, you want to make sure that the amount of protein that you're eating is enough to be able to build extra muscle tissue. I always say the minimum amount of protein should be 1.6 gram per kg. But since the recomposition process is always on the edge of just having enough calories to build muscle, I would go higher in protein to be sure that the muscle building process is supported the best. I recommend to go around 2 grams per kg of body weight. Fats and carbs have less of a priority in terms of performance and the ability to lose fat and gain muscle. We don't have to get too scientific about it and adhere to an exact number of carbs and fat, but I do recommend not eating too little of one macronutrient or even eliminating one, as that can lead to a deficiency. We need carbs to perform in the gym and having energy throughout the day. And we need fats, especially for reproductive processes like building hormones and so on. So the best macronutrient split for you is the one that you can actually adhere to for a long time. In my app, I prescribe calories, but the macros can be adjusted. And here are some macronutrient distributions that you can choose based on your preference. When it comes to training, we need to make sure that we provide the right stimulus to enable muscle growth. That means we are aiming for progressive overload. If you don't have a training plan that you follow, the chance is high that you're not progressively overloading. Many people are just doing random training. But in the end, you have no clue if you're actually accumulating more volume each week. If not, it is very difficult to build muscle and you're probably just training at maintenance. I'm recommending you to write down a plan that you are following minimum for 4 weeks so you can keep track of your weights and reps that you've achieved. Writing yourself a well-designed training that makes sense is a skill itself. I did that for many years, for many different training goals of my clients, and would say I mastered writing plans. Especially the more goals you have, the more complex the plan gets. But once you've figured it out, it is so much fun, and it has also something satisfying to it, because when you finished writing and actually doing the plan, it gives you so many information about yourself. Explaining to you in this video how to write a training plan would go far beyond the scope of this video, but you're very welcome to work with my training plans in my app that would definitely allow you to make progress. But I still want to give you some key principles that you should follow to allow progressive overload to happen. Incorporate complex movements such as back squats, deadlifts, overhead press, etc. Those types of movements are working not only one, but many muscle groups at the same time. This is why they are very effective and allowing you to build strength. If you're only doing isolated movements, you can't expect big jumps in your training weights. Keep the arrangement of your exercises the same for minimum 4 weeks, as well as the training split. If you're constantly changing your exercise order, you won't be able to compare your numbers, because if you're performing an exercise before another one has definitely an impact on your strength levels. Do the exercises that you want to build strength in the beginning of your workout when you're fresh. If you do them in the end, you're less likely to make progress in your main priority. If you're someone that gets bored with a consistent training plan very fast, you can switch your finisher exercises every 2 weeks, which I like to do as well. My workouts always include a finisher that usually consists of a core or a conditioning piece. And the purpose of the finisher is therefore not to build significantly more strength in those exercises, but more to get me a little sweat in the end, or just get my heart rate up a little. Of course, it could get more and more complex and detailed here in how to write the perfect training plan, but let me know in the comments if you're interested in a detailed video about how to write the perfect training plan for yourself. Lastly, I want to mention that in order to build muscle effectively, and especially if you're trying to achieve a recomposition, you should sleep 8 hours average per night and manage your stress levels. We are all not perfect, and it is not always possible to sleep 8 hours and to have no stress. But you should aim for it, because it plays such a big role in terms of your ability to recover and therefore to build muscle. And if you really want to see changes while being on your maintenance calories, you need to give your body time. Fat and muscle tissue is not changing in a couple of weeks. You need to do all the things that I've just mentioned in this video over and over again in order for your body to change. The good news are you have the ability to change. You are not born in one body that can't change and can't do anything about it. Fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle choices are tools that can make your well-being and your aesthetics change, but only if you're willing to be patient. I recommend staying at least 3 months with one strategy. If it's recomposition and being at maintenance, if it's fat loss and being in a caloric deficit, or if it's building muscle and being in a caloric surplus. Always think of how much you can change within the next 3, 6, or 12 months if you're not drifting away from your path. Let me know in the comments what your current goal is, and hit the like button if you took away something helpful to you from this video. And also don't forget to subscribe to my channel for some future videos.